Fallout 4 isn't a well-made video game. The writing is abysmal, the characters are either mediocre or nonsensical, and the role-playing and dialogue are almost entirely worthless. The graphics were dated when it came out, simple things like high frame rates don't work, and you need to mod in basic functionality like disabling mouse acceleration and adding an FOV slider. The combat is shallow, repetitive, and poorly balanced. And yet, every 2 years or so, I install about 80 mods for it, play it until level 15, and then uninstall it again. Why is that? Considering how naturally I broke the 100 mod threshold in my current playthrough, it's clear I'm not here because Bethesda did such an amazing job. But I think in checking out what I changed and what I left intact or expanded on, it might be easier to figure out what's working for me and what systems could use expanding in a future title, or hopefully a potential successor. In my opinion, the first thing you need to do to get the most out of Fallout 4 is abandon the idea that you can fix the RPG parts of the game. You can't fix her, lil bro. You can revamp the perks, add skills, even rework how the dialogue system works to allow for more or less than 4 options, but here's the unfortunate truth. I suppose if you literally remove the entire game, you can get something out of it. But in general, this game was still written and designed by Bethesda, Maryland. What that means is the story's gonna be stupid.
I wasn't gonna be stupid enough to get mixed up with caring about other people again.
Characters are going to do insane, nonsensical things, and your character is defined against your will. So instead of targeting the weak spots and trying to make them strong, I recommend finding the strong part and orienting the rest of the game to serve it. Introducing Nate the Rake.
Whoa! Is that blackface, dude?
No, this isn't blackface. I'm an actual
Bethesda NPC. Fun Bethesda fact, the guy in the background laughing as this guy shoots this Canadian POW's corpse is Nate here. Damn, Emil, getting real, huh?
Beautiful, cherished 51st date.
Before we get specific, we need to talk about the Navy SEAL in the room, goon LARPing. There's a discussion to be had about weapons like the Desert Eagle and P90 being in the original Fallout games, and the AR-15 is from the late 50s, but it's pretty clear that GPNVGs don't fit the retro future aesthetic. Here's the thing, I don't care. The world building and weapon design in vanilla Fallout 4 are already abysmal.
What is he doing?
Allow me to quickly dump some rounds into the equestrian corpse that is Fallout 4's assault rifle.
What the Sigma?
I completely understand wanting your game to fit the vanilla aesthetic, but I'm already not invested in this game's world, so I'd rather shape it into something I like than spend time respecting the world that brought you the Institute, Sieg Heil Maxon, and the kid in the fucking fridge. Once you set aside weapon restrictions, you are free to completely overhaul your arsenal with some of the best animations in the industry. Ripped from Call of Duty or custom animated, there's insane quality on offer on the Nexus. We got motherfuckers engaging the safety in holster animations. We have thumbs shifting to hit slide releases. We have equip animations that sound like this. This is rivaled by Ready or Not by Cyberpunk. But now we have a new problem. Some enemies are massive tanks, and others are one-tapping me because the mod author wanted to add realism to a health system that has no business engaging with it. Perks at level 1 that give you 20% damage boosts, combined with design meant to always say yes to the player.
How can we say yes? Like, I want to land on that ice ball. We say yes as much as possible. That leads to some level of chaos.
Can I do this? Can I do this? Yes.
It means that the only way to balance weapons is with damage sponges. Survival cuts this down a bit, but multipliers can only do so much. So health needs a touch up too. Before I start naming specific mods, keep in mind that I'm playing on the pre-next gen patch. Many mods will require this, to the point that a lot of them list the pre-patch version of their mod as the main download, with the next gen patch as an optional secondary download. You can either use the downgrader mods from the Nexus, or what I would recommend, downloading the depots from Steam. Then you don't have to download and trust random EXEs from the internet. There's a variety of mods that rework the health and damage. I tried a few and had tons of issues with pushover enemies and getting one-tapped. What I finally settled on was True Damage. True Damage removes damage values from weapons and instead applies it to the caliber. This is realistic or whatever, but the reason I use it is that it takes extremely varied damage numbers and pulls them into a reasonable range for the most part. Make sure to grab necessary patches for modded calibers, or every once in a while you'll find a modded weapon doing 3 damage or something because it's not getting a damage boost from its modded bullets. Somehow along the way, I messed up compatibility with True Damage and Sim Settlements or something, but I found myself suddenly being one-tapped a lot. Fortunately, or so I thought, True Damage comes with global damage sliders, so as long as weapons are within a reasonable range of each other in terms of damage, the actual numbers don't really matter. Just adjust the slider until you die in the preferred amount of shots and you should be good to go. Unfortunately, the purpose behind all this falls apart if certain weapons are completely inconsistent. And weirdly enough, a lot of the issues I had were with vanilla weapons. True Damage also recommends using the mod Scourge. Scourge tries to de-level the world and bases enemy health values more on realism than on RPG balance. I tried it in the early game and found enemies way above my level in Conquered that were one-tapping me, so I replaced it with Hardcore Health Overhaul. This again normalizes enemy health, but I found it to be a lot more consistent, and I found it easier to intuit whether I could take a fight or not. However, after breaking my install entirely, I decided to take it slower and target mods with one-tap prevention and early game pipe weapon removal in mind. Meet I'm Going to Kill Myself. This was my 6th or so character after a variety of testing with different weapons and mod configurations. Here's the part where I tell you to do something kind of annoying. You probably should learn how to use Fallout 4 Edit. I manually downloaded mods to replace every single vanilla firearm barring legendaries because I'm lazy. I'll leave the tutorial I used to learn how to do it, but the important thing is this. I checked each weapon in-game to see that the damage values were working with true damage, then I made a spreadsheet of the vanilla weapons and what I would replace them with, and anything that used a modded caliber had its ammunition replaced with a vanilla counterpart. Actually, in one particular example, I renamed ammunition to apply to a gun, since it was the only gun using that ammo. Fun fact, 5mm ammo isn't real. 7.62x39 is, and I was replacing the minigun with a real-life machine gun anyway. Obviously, you don't have to do this, and there are plenty of replacers available on the Nexus. But in my experience, something always goes wrong, and once you learn the tools, you can change broken things more easily. And if you disagree with something true damage or a weapon mod does, you can easily change it for yourself. I found that true damage gives shotguns more damage than I have health, meaning I was guaranteed to get one-tapped below a specific armor threshold. Double-barrel shotguns are given to raiders starting in Concord, meaning a quarter of the enemies in the museum were able to one-tap me. Instead of changing the spawns, I simply tweaked the shotguns to do 89 damage, which is still plenty while keeping it from ruining the early game. If you're going to be using replacers, I also recommend Super Mutant Weaponry. It re-adds a variation of the pipe weapons to Super Mutants. Because of how they're animated, a lot of weapons can't be used by them, so you'll find a lot of fist-fighting mutants with Glocks in their pockets if you don't bother with this mod. Barring Super Mutants, with just these two mods, fights are faster, more intense, and significantly less tedious to engage with. Combine the damage overhaul of your choice with Uneducated Shooter, which adds weapon inertia and leaning, and the game starts to look a lot more like a tactical shooter. I've tried the mod before and hated it because its default lean mode is based on Escape from Tarkov, and it's stiff and clunky for that reason. But if you go into the MCM, there's a Rainbow Six mode, and it feels much snappier and clean. My perimeter! My perimeter is me! I will not quit my post till I'm properly relieved. An unfortunate reality with this one is that the hitboxes on random objects in Fallout 4 are really bad, so tight leaning and pixel shots won't work most of the time. It's still pretty cool and the inertia still rocks. Another great mod to enhance the real-time combat is VAFs. A mod to replace VATs with bullet time is a fairly old idea at this point, and while the older solutions definitely got the major benefit across, there are some major flaws. Sure, action points still have a purpose, but what about all the luck and agility perks that involve VATs? What about Critical Banker? What about Mysterious Stranger? VAFs maintains the functionality of all these perks while changing the way that they play. I've been in horrible situations where I was about to die and then bailed out by the stranger in a way that was so much more visceral than if it happened in a cutscene like before. You can miss critical hits, meaning lining up the shot while your action points tick down is more challenging and more rewarding when it works out. VATS was always a crutch meant to help out the terrible gunplay of Fallout 3 in New Vegas, and this mod helps take these two contradictory playstyles and helps to push them together without removing the potential depth. Oh my god, and the Gun Fu perk? Instead of boringly selecting different enemies, you now have a rush to quickly put rounds in multiple targets with exponential rewards. I'm thinking about doing a Max Payne run next. And with all these modded guns, this experiment of mine really cemented the idea that animations are one of the most important things when it comes to game feel. These mods don't make Fallout 4 particularly deeper, but they make it feel so much better. And you aren't playing Fallout 4 because you want a deep, mechanically dense shooter. At least I'm not. Let me red pill you on something else you might be noticing right about now. Fallout 4 Survival is an extraction shooter. Hear me out. What does a Tarkov raid look like? You go to your dragon den of piled gold coins, you grab what you assume to be the best kit for the job, factoring in storage space for what you find. Then you go through areas, killing different types of enemies, looting their bodies, and picking up random trash that'll be useful to you later. But what about quests? Fallout 4 quests and Tarkov quests are a lot more similar than you might be thinking. Go to a place and kill a guy, grab an item and deposit it in another location. The difference is that in Fallout, there are actual characters who give you these quests. They aren't beholden to horrific amounts of RNG, and you don't need a wiki to find out how to complete them. Another objection may be jumping to mind. Extraction shooters have timed raids, and Fallout takes place in a persistent world. This is true. Fallout 4 actually is an open world instead of just attempting to emulate one. Obviously, I'm being a little dense on purpose. I'm not trying to give Bethesda credit for the obviously flawed mess that is Fallout 4. But if you change your headspace and target the positive qualities while writing off or modding out the poor qualities, you can find yourself having fun with a game you haven't enjoyed since you were younger and or dumber. The gameplay loop of exploration, combat, and looting are hallmarks of extraction shooters, and provide the same slow moments that function as lows to contrast with the highs of combat. And if you can get the balancing right, combat can be intense enough that instead of being bored in the downtime, you feel a bit of tension underneath a cool atmosphere, which can also be modded in. On the topic of that tension, another mod that pushes the game into that extraction shooter zone is a recent release called Vulture. Shout out Hayden for putting me on this one. This adds the shuffling in people's pockets from games like Escape from Tarkov, and it works with Fall Souls, which takes away your ability to stop time in menus. These two mods together add a lot of hardcore to the game. I thought it would just be a small touch, but it really adds a ton in terms of experience. It fixes a lot of obvious silliness, like the classic eating 500 wheels of cheese in frozen time to win a fight, and it adds a bit of panic to specific inventory management, like looting an enemy's weapon from behind cover and working to equip it while getting shot at. You absolutely will experience getting jumped when using this mod. It's really fun. I didn't know that the constant pausing while scrapping settlements bothered me until it didn't happen anymore. This is very important. If you install this mod, make sure to grab the mod No Health and Crippled Pop-Ups. This is super annoying in normal gameplay, but when you get control taken from you in response to being shot, only to get shot again and killed, it's possibly the most frustrating thing this game can manage. So when I sat down and decided today was the day I would finally play past level 15 and enjoy Fallout 4. How did I do it? Before we get to that, there's one more problem that needs solving. The first 3 hours. If you've played Fallout 4 across many characters, there's one major hurdle in the way of having a good experience. The railroad. Not that railroad. The quest railroad. Clear Sanctuary Hills. Clear Red Rocket. Move the materials if you want. Clear Concord. Power Armor. Deathclaw. Lugging the shit back. Diamond City. And before we even get to Nick Valentine, I'm already burned out. I don't care about this. I don't want to follow Dogmeat again. There are a few solutions to this problem. The simplest is SKK Fast Start Reunions. This, in addition with one of the many alternate start mods, means you can go straight to Fort Hagen and kill Kellogg right off the rip. This moment is a bit like killing your first dragon in Skyrim. After Act 1 is completed, the Brotherhood of Steel arrive in force, and the paths through the story start to branch. You'll see vertibirds, and you'll have access to significantly more quests for more factions. I also recommend Radiant Dangers Minds and Shattered, skip Kellogg's Memories, for obvious reasons. More importantly than all of that, it's also just statistically likely to be content you've played less. If you're level 15 burnout like me, you usually quit the game before you get to this point, meaning the things after it are usually going to be more fresh. Alternatively, or in addition to this, there's another few ways you can go. Use one of the many story mods that create alternatives or branching paths from these quests. There's America Rising, there's Depravity, there's Sim Settlements. I've played a bit of all three, and while none of them were particularly impressive from a writing perspective in my opinion, at least in Act 1, each brought something different to the table. And again, if you haven't played it, it's at least something new. I kind of hate Act 1 of Sim Settlements, but we'll hold off on that. So, we're good, right? Tactical gameplay, fun loop, I'm shooting dudes, I'm clearing buildings, I'm doing quests, and bam, one tapped. I'll just go back and bam, one tapped again. Okay, maybe a weapon is bugged. So I'll use God mode to check what weapon they have. Oh, it's a normal gun that has no reason to be doing this. I'll quit being cute. This happened on 3 different mod loadouts. I spent literal days redoing my mods, having them work to level 15-ish, literally level 15 on one character, only for weapons to suddenly start killing me in one hit. Okay, fine. I'll disable true damage and the health overhaul. Oh, okay. All my custom modified gun replacers are now broken. Fine, I'll make another new character. Okay, I'm falling to the ground again. Fuck! Okay, new plan. Meet... This character has 4 in every special stat because it was like my 6th test save and I was fed up with actually naming my characters. I obviously wasn't going to manually edit every weapon again, so I used modern weapon replacers all in one pack, which gives you a list of weapon mods to download. Then during installation lets you choose which weapons, if any, replace the vanilla weapons. I should have started with this, huh? I still recommend the pipe weapon mod for super mutants because I hit the minigun option on this one and learned to regret that very quickly. Instead of my previous methods, I tried another, more all-in-one option. Better locational damage has a lot of features, but its main appeal is making targeting of specific limbs and headshots specifically more valuable. And while at first scripted headshots turned me away, the relationship between helmets, calibers, and headshots made it very satisfying to use. Something I couldn't find on its mod page was why I was seeing extremely over-leveled enemies, especially synths and turrets. Then I installed the Robco Patcher patch for it, and instead of the high-level enemies disappearing, they just died also. So, nice. We did it! The damage I received skewed more toward vanilla Fallout 4, but I'm playing with limited saves, so I don't mind being able to take a few hits. The real difficulty added by the mod is its belt tightening around money and ammo and containers. If you've ever been annoyed because you use the same weapon for a billion hours, this provides a great motivation to use multiple weapons. I often carried 2 weapons and switched them out on return trips, simply so I'd have the ammo to keep using them. Toned it down though once I started using Vulture. I prefer needing to leverage the risk of looting over just not getting anything. Also, if you're tweaking the settings in the MCM, 0 means 100% chance of having stuff, so don't set everything to 100 because then you'll get nothing. Regardless, out of all the solutions I tried, this was the one that gave me the least issues and required the least tweaking. It also allows for you to turn off things that bother you, like bleeding, configure the headshots, and tweak the ammo changes like I just mentioned. Another mod I found works very well with survival mode is the Journey mod. This mod allows for fast travel between settlements that have supply lines connecting them. I think it's fair to say that Fallout 4 was not designed with a lack of fast travel in mind, and this mod definitely helps to decrease the tedium of quests, while making each settlement feel extremely valuable. Unfortunately, this also means that the local leader perk is even more overpowered than it already was. Funneling every character into having 6 charisma in order to do any progression is one of Fallout 4's biggest mistakes in my opinion. To fix that, I recommend the Local Leader Tweaks mod, which allows you to make supply lines without needing 6 charisma, since this ability is important for all builds. Unfortunately, I think this pulls in the opposite direction too far. All you need is one successful settlement and you can pump out settlers to every other settlement at basically no cost. That's not necessarily a problem, since it helps that extraction shooter feeling, since you deploy from a settlement and extract by dumping your loot and saving at one. So like with everything when it comes to modding, it's about your preference. Another option to be used in conjunction with Journey is Flyable Personal Vertibird. This mod allows for vertibirds to be built at settlements and flown between them or at designated landing zones. I've never used this mod before because it seemed fairly silly to have my own helicopter and it seemed overpowered on the surface. What I didn't know is that it has hardcore settings that make it harder to get access to and harder to use. You can configure fuel usage, you can have a mortal pilot, and you can decide whether or not the mounted guns use ammunition. Even the acquisition of the vertibirds comes with configurable options. Another hardcore setting I expected to like was that building the helicopters requires specific scrap acquired from destroying helicopters, meaning the only way to even build one is to fight the Brotherhood of Steel, wait for them to crash, or look around for destroyed crash sites around the map. You can also set how long it takes for them to pick you up. Do they have to fly all the way from the nearest settlement that is a helicopter? Does it spawn at the nearest settlement in general? Does it just spawn nearby so it's quick? All of it's up to you and is super configurable. But with something as resource intensive as the vertibirds, Journey seems a little too easy now, doesn't it? Let's talk about how Sim Settlements 2 deals with fast travel. Toward the end of the first act of Sim Settlements, you'll gain access to a caravan station in the municipal plot. This allows nearby settlements that also have caravan stations to connect to each other and make supply lines like Local Leader does. In addition to that, these supply lines also allow the invisible resources used by Sim Settlements to be shared. Because of this distinction, I wouldn't recommend mixing Local Leader supply lines and Sim Settlement supply lines, since it could be hard to identify which is which after the fact. Unfortunately, if you use this in coordination with Journey, you'll be incentivized to use the vanilla supply line systems just for fast travel, which sort of eliminates the benefit of using this system. So what is that benefit? Well, at level 2 of the Caravan service, you can use it to fast travel to connected settlements. What I like about this is that there's a gradual process of building up settlements that eventually gives you the ability to fast travel. It feels much more like something that you've earned when you've had to put in the effort. In addition to that, it also makes the workload long enough that using the vertibird travel isn't so much more difficult that it doesn't serve a purpose. Especially since there's a distance cap on the caravans, it can be worth it to have far off settlements equipped with helicopters, so they can ferry you back to your network. I suppose this is an area where the vanilla supply lines also serve a purpose, and since fast travel is only available at level 2 caravans, you can easily build up a network of points you can travel to, while not as easily being able to travel back. This feeds into the extraction loop from earlier even more. You amass a horde at home base, then teleport to your forward operating bases, and then shoot and loot on the outer edges before either returning with your treasure or taking more territory. Okay, so no joke, I wrote a 2,000 word section on Sim Settlements 2, but I realized after no shit 25 hours of gameplay that this mod wasn't for me.
Hi there, would you like to sign my petition?
I was grinding my way through it in order to get to Act 3 so I could play with the war mechanics, when I probably should have just installed Sim Settlements Conqueror. The section remains in my script, available on Patreon or via YouTube memberships if you're curious, but the TLDR is, the mod's really cool, but I don't enjoy engaging with its deeper systems. And the normal Fallout 4 type quests it offers don't justify the time investment. Regardless though, I had the gameplay where I wanted it, which meant it was time for one last category of tweaking. Lots of people go super in depth in making this game super realistic or spooky or whatever, but I'm here for simplicity, so I only chucked a few mods in my vibe category. No more register sound for XP. Duh. JHUD, a minimalist preset for Fall UI that I fell in love with after using. And for the graphics, I didn't bother with Reshade or ENB. That's a lie, I added an ENB later. I simply dropped in NACX, which redoes the lighting and adds insane weather effects, along with tons of optional settings that can be adjusted in-game via holotape. This is the most plug-and-play graphics mod I've used, and I really like it. It's even got tons of presets, so you can change the vibe on the fly. And if you want a fairly light overhaul that changes the vibe, you gotta go with True Grass. It's simple and easy and dramatically changes what the environment looks like. And lastly is a simple but extremely effective mod that does what many great mods do. Blatantly rip assets from Insurgency Sandstorm. Another one, Brutal Death, changes some of the death sounds to be the most horrible audio ever recorded into a microphone. It really helps those stupid Bethesda raiders feel a bit more like people. With these simple changes, I really got a lot more invested in the moment-to-moment exploration with quiet footsteps in the woods broken by echoing gunfire. I love this shit. My next character for this video is Deborah Penumbra. Her husband was in the army, and you will address her by his rank. After leaving the vault, she saw a radio broadcast from some soldiers, and before she knew it, she was in the Enclave. Making a meme character was an odd choice, because the game felt more serious on this playthrough than the last few put together. And man, did I make the right call. One of the first quests is to capture an Enclave oil rig, and the spooky atmosphere and custom music the mission already had, combined with the rain effects, made it the vibiest Fallout 4 area ever. Plus, the interior lighting enhancements and flashlight from NAC combined to create the classic horror game metal hallways. Dead Space type shit. If you were to take away anything from this video, it's this. When you're going nose first into the modding grindstone, you'll have less issues if you target specific areas and try to create a particular experience. Your storage will thank you, and do you really need 8K sweat textures? Damn, I am burned out on this game again. But hey, across like 5 characters, it took like 40 hours instead of my normal 8, so nice. Actually, wait, no I'm not. Meet Raymond Derman. You can call him Ray Derman. Kill 3 raider bosses so you can start the raider part of the King Gath, you son of a bitch! As always, thank you for watching, and thanks to my channel members and patrons. Thank you to Sapast, Cookie, Dazed Canadian, and Sea Trouble. Patreon and channel members get access to my scripts as I write them, so you even get to see the videos I don't make, as well as custom roles on the Discord, early access to videos, and of course, it helps me make more videos. Let me know how my mod selections were stupid in the comments, and as always, subscribe to my fucking YouTube channel.